Hey guys, so let's start. Uh, Hello everyone again. Thank you very much uh, for coming back. For those of you who knew us and are with us for a long time, we are here for the ninth meetup of Porto.Vue, and the sixth one has a remote event. Um, as you may know, most of you, we are already, our community already has around 1.5 years, but last 6 months we were very inactive. Okay, and sorry for that. We didn't have many events, the ones that we wanted to have, but we didn't we weren't away. Okay, we just had too much work, and it was hard for us to manage the community. But here we are again, and we are going back. We are coming back with more recurrent events at the same pace that we were before. And actually, we'll be planning probably a live event. But I mean, we visit a local event where we can join again together and talk about you and other things that's not about you, and share a beer if needed, because we I think we all of us need that right now. So let's see how the pandemic will evolve. If it goes in the positive trend, we'll come back for sure to the local event. Sorry. So for those who don't know us, and it's the first time, so Porto.Vue, it's a common effort to create a community around people that love Vue or have an interest into work with Vue. Okay, so our goal is to share knowledge and to share challenges and experiences about our experience with people that are new or are very experienced to Vue. Usually we try to make these meetups happen every month. Not didn't happen in the last times, but we want to keep a pace of once every month, every 2 months, within different hosts, locations, and speakers, when we are able to do this. When we are able to do this locally. So we are looking for speakers. Okay, it's been a little bit harder than usual to have new speakers at at Vue Porto. So if you're willing to share with us some experience, some new thing that you've learned about Vue, and you want to share with us, please come to us and ask to join this event, the next event, because we are in need of speakers for Porto.Vue events. You can contact us through the Meetup, Twitter, Slack, and email. We'll respond back to you in every single of these channels. Okay. So today, and to not take you more time, we will have two talks. Okay. First talk from Posse, which is the lead software engineer at Cloudbeds. He will talk about VueConf US, and he will make a recap. Posse also is the founder of the Vue Portugal meetup. Not meetup, community, Vue Portugal community, and it's joining us to make a recap of this VueConf that happened actually around 1 month ago. And myself will talk about test-driven development with Vue.js. And for those who do not know me, I'm Fábio Martins, engineering manager at Infraspeak. So I hope that you enjoy this session today. And thank you again for your presence. And let's move fast for our first talk. Rui, you wanna move in?
Thanks, Fabio. Yeah, let me show my screen, see what happens. You need to allow me to share, please.
Yeah. Stop. I will stop sharing. I think you can share. But by the way, for those who are here with us, please, if you have any question during the meetup, just use the chat. the chat section on the right side of Zoom. Just to write the question there and we'll answer for you. But by the end of each talk, if you want to make a talk with us and make a live question to us without a written message, feel free to unmute yourself and talk with us. Okay. Rui.
Thanks, Carlos. Thanks, Fábio. Thanks, Porto.Vue, for having me. It's great. It's my second time, so I hope that everyone can enjoy this very simple talk, like just to recap the Vue conference US that happened last month, or actually we're in June already, so 1 month and a half ago. I'll do my best to remember what happened, but there's a few very interesting things that are happening with Vue.js that are worth to share. So thanks for having me. So yeah, my name is Rui. I'm no longer with Cloudbeds, actually. I'm an engineer manager with Heygo. I started literally yesterday. So yeah, apologies for not updating you guys on that, but literally just happened. So yeah, I'm also the co-founder. Thanks, man. Yeah. I'm also the co-founder and CTO of Remote Crew. We are always looking for developers to join international projects. So if you are looking for freelance job, full-time contract, please find us in remotecrew.io, register, and we'll get in touch. I'm also the co-founder of Vue-js Portugal. We're a community trying to drive Vue.js in Portugal forward, together with Porto.Vue. Basically, we're the two Portuguese communities. And I'm also the co-organizer of Vue.js London. We are coming back soon in Vue.js London. So yeah, check Twitter for that, and you can follow me in all the socials, whatever. Cool. So the agenda for today. Really quickly, I selected 6 talks that I think are the most important that happen in VueConf US. And literally each one of those, it's a slide, and that's all I have for you today before we go into more proper talks that Carlos will talk about TDD stuff. So yeah, first one, Evan obviously was the keynote speaker. He introduced the latest on Vue.js, and there's a few very interesting points here. The most important one is Vue 3 decided to drop IE11 support. That's like the biggest thing that everyone needs to be aware from VueConf US and the recent developments in Vue. It's a pretty big thing. So there's an RFC for it. You can check. The link is down below on the left. So that's pretty massive. Yeah. Then, there's been talks about what's going to happen with Vue CLI, because Vite is now a thing, and by Evan's words, everything will convert on Vite. If you don't know what Vite is, feel free to check the other Meetup Porto.Vue where I did an introduction of Vite, and like it's an amazing tool to quickly serve locally your projects and develop. Yeah, so about Vue 3, the test runner support hasn't been great, and the ecosystem is pretty much just catching up. So Cypress has a new thing. We're going to talk about it in a bit, and Jest integration, web test runner. That's all happening, right? VitePress, Evan says it's going to be the future for server-side rendering and optimizations on that. So expect some developments there. And another big thing, like this was a very big focus on from Evan as well, was the developer experience. And there's one very important thing to talk about here, which is the IDE support on TypeScript. It hasn't been great on Vue ever. So going for Vue 3, this was one of the most expected things that, TypeScript would behave with Vue. So Vtour is being updated for it. Vue.js is a new thing. However, Volar is expected to become the official VS Code extension. This was Evan saying. So I believe that, if you didn't try Volar before, please feel free to go and check it. Only for Vue 3. So yeah. And then you get all the things that we should already have, right? But didn't happen in IntelliSense, type checking, whatever. So that's all expected. Script setup is a good thing as well. There's an RFC for it. I linked on the left. So basically, you just declare variables, and the variables are available on the template. You don't need to export them. You don't need, it's pretty sweet. Syntax sugar, so have a look. It's cool. Vue 3 migration tool by the end of April. I haven't checked if this happened or not. Probably not yet. If anyone knows if it happened or not, feel free to say so. But probably still in the works. And always the idea of migrating from Vue 2 to Vue 3 by running a command is a bit far-fetched. So yeah, let's see if that actually happens. And there will be another release of Vue 2, which will be 2.7 with its support and better TypeScript support. So they're going to backport some of the Vue 3 stuff on TypeScript back to Vue 2. So these were the most important things that I could summarize for Vue, the biggest being dropping IE11. That's going to be massive for projects that are already running in Vue 2 and people want to update to Vue 3. That's probably going to be a downside, right? So yeah. Cool. Moving forward. There was this talk by Natalia Tepluna. I murdered that pronunciation for sure. She's been big on she's a core team member. She's been big on the composition API. She did the live coding. I didn't take notes because it was hard to follow the live coding and take notes at the same time, but I invite everyone to check the video. I linked it on the left. For everyone that wants to start with the composition API, being it Vue 3 or Vue 2, I believe this is a very important talk to follow, and even to go back to when you're developing if you need something on the composition API. Yeah, downside was that she played back the talk. It was not proper live, but still cool anyway. So feel free to go check on your own time. Yeah, so that was a quick one. Next, we have Next Performances. So this is by Debbie O'Brien. Debbie is a core team member of Nuxt, and she was showing us what Nuxt is gonna have going forward. And Nuxt 3 or 4, I don't remember the version, the one that updates to Vue 3, it is going to be awesome. So you get a lot of things out of the box and a lot of magic happening. And there's a lot of text here. I don't feel like going through all of these, but the most important one, lazy loading components. Literally, like you just write lazy before the component name, and Nuxt knows that to lazy load it. This is massive. Like it's gonna make your life really easy if you want to have like a simple project running Nuxt on it. Yeah, there's a lot of things happening with images as well. Lazy loading, responsive sizes, automatic, like providing images from Cloudinary automatically in Nuxt. Like that's just massive. So feel free to watch her talk as well. It's really awesome. She's done the same talk in VueConf as she did in other conferences about Nuxt performances, but still a good thing to go look. And we all are worried about these code split and chunks and roots loadings and lazy loadings and getting our bundles smaller. So Nux just does that like out of the box. No need for care about it. So it's really cool. So yeah, feel free to check that talk as well. So next we have Vue Router. This was by Adam Jar. Adam is a Vue Mastery member. The talk was together with Polak. I don't remember his first name. He's also from Vue Mastery. So they showed what the new Vue Router can do, and the most important changes on Vue Router that have been developed for Vue Router. I believe it's Vue Router 4, which is going to be compatible with Vue 3. It's ecosystem versioning. It's all over the place at the moment. But yeah, we can do really cool things, especially about the nested roots. So we've all had, everyone that did a project with Vue already, you've always had this scenario of having an edit and register and detail page, right? Being it a video, a blog post, whatever it is. And obviously you always create a parent component for those pages. But with the new Vue Router, that's going to be even easier to do, because you can pass a prop with the data for the child component to consume. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, in a nutshell, there's a few changes on the way that Vue Router works, but I'll leave you guys to investigate that on your own time. These was like the most important changes that are happening. And we can pass parameters in a nicer way. We can pass props in a nicer way. Like everything is it just feels nicer and simpler. And you just use a watch effect to check for the root change. And root changes have been something hard to achieve previously. Like you never know which hook to use, and so I believe with Vue 3 and Vue Router 4, that's going to be easier. So yeah, that's also an important part of the conference. Going forward, we have, to me, the second most important talk of the conference was this one by Jessica Sachs. Jessica is she works for Cypress. And together with Lachlan is also works for Cypress, and they're both members of the core team of Vue, and they're taking care of Vue test utils. So Vue test utils was the version 1 was, so it was in beta for a long time, and they've managed to release 1.0, and now that they're working for Cypress, they have been pushing Vue into Cypress, and they've now launched these new Cypress component testing. And Cypress component testing is really interesting. It basically launches a Chromium app, so it's literally Chrome, but it has the Cypress logo on it, and it runs the test of your component on that browser. So it's kind of like a integration test together with an end-to-end test, but just for one component, and it has a feel of storybook to it. So in a nutshell, like if you have a problem with your tests, you're going to have an inspector on the side that you can check your literally your console logs, and you can inspect the DOM and see what's happening. So yeah, it's a way for Cypress to do integration tests. The API is okay, feels like Cypress. It has the same cons of integration tests. Obviously, it relies too much on the DOM, etc. But the industry of unit tests have been slowly but surely moving to an integration test way. Like there's not a lot of examples on around to do unit tests, and there's people that just say like you shouldn't actually access the VM or the internal parts of your component when you are testing. That's debatable, but it's where the industry seems to be going. So it seems like everyone is going to go down the route of integration tests. So the way to select DOM elements becomes an important part, and Cypress does that really well, as we all know from end-to-end tests. And yeah, he uses Vite dev server, which is awesome, makes it really fast. And she actually did a live demo. Well, it wasn't really live because she recorded the talk, but anyway, was live enough. If you need mocking, Cypress provides that for a long time now. So just use that. So literally she was coding the test, and it felt like doing Cypress, like end-to-end tests on Cypress, but just for one component. And that's very interesting. So yeah, as I said, it launches a playground to explore your components and to see the tests running, which made the audience kind of raise the question of like, can we use this instead of Storybook? My personal opinion is no. They feel different purposes, but just the way that she presented it and that question arising was something very interesting that happened on the conference to me. And yeah, obviously, because you launch the browser, you have a visual component to your unit test, which is something that no other framework provides to you right now. And she also showed how to debug if the test is not running properly, like how can you develop it better? And obviously having that visual component to it makes it much easier to understand what's wrong with your test itself. Instead, like it makes it easier to develop the test, and it makes it easier to actually know what to test. So these to me was not the best talk, but the second best talk for sure. So I invite all of you to check these. I have some links on the left that you can go through. And I'll provide the slides later on, but this is really interesting stuff. So yeah, that's component testing on Cypress. And the last talk that I wanted to raise from Vue-conf.us was this one by Tracy Holinka, HTML email with Vue.js. This is something that's been on the back of my mind for a few years now. Like anyone that had to do an email with HTML knows the pain, and it's really, really painful. Everything is like on tables. So yeah, coding like it's 1999. And then you have special tags for Outlook. All the styles are inline. And people have been using this MJML framework for a while, but it doesn't have dynamic data. So if you want to like have a hello username and the username is interpolated, then it falls short. And the awesome thing about these is that she's able to leverage Vue server render to create emails on the server side. And then, because it's on the server side, like you can do the calls that you need for the emails and you just generate HTML. It's really interesting. I also have the talk here. So everyone that is going through the pain of doing HTML emails, please go look at these, because it will make your life much easier if you can achieve what she achieved. So yeah, these to me is game changer. And also, like when I was on the conference, it kind of like hit my mind of there's a business opportunity here, because HTML emails are so hard. There have been agencies that you hire to do HTML emails, but imagine that if you can launch your own startup that does HTML emails leveraging Vue.js, it will be the development will be much quicker than any other agency, and you can do dynamic data on the emails, and there's a business opportunity here for sure. So yeah, it's also relevant, I would believe. And yeah, I leave two links here. The Vue.js 2021. It's not like the second one is for sure a YouTube playlist. The first one is not, so apologies for that. But it's on Vue Mastery Conferences webpage, so you can go and check. There's 7 talks for 2021, and I believe there's all the talks for 2020. I don't know why there's not all the talks for 2021, but yeah, that's what I got. And I couldn't find any other talk online. So feel free to check the talks that you like. Yeah, and find us on all those things. Feel free to join Porto.Vue Slack, Vue.js PT Slack, Remote Crew IO Slack, all the GitHubs and the Twitters and the Bings and Blanks and all the socials that you'd like. Yeah, thanks everyone for this short talk. And I'll take questions if anyone has, or any insight if you already tried like Cypress or Vue 3, anything you guys would like to talk about, feel free. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rui.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So if you have any question, can you please write it on the chat, or just unmute yourself and ask the question. No questions?
Come on, just one question or something.
Just let me ask, Carlos, are you there?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Are you following questions on YouTube?
Let me see if there's any new, but I think not.
No.
Okay, just to make sure that there's somebody, because I'm not watching YouTube.
I went there to check. Like there's no questions, but anyway, it's fine. No worries.
Yeah.
It was really quick anyway.
But I have a question actually.
All right, cool.
Which is actually, and you'll see in my talk, in my next talk, a few things that correlate with some things that are here. But I find it interesting that if I saw this slide like 5 years ago, everything would resonate to me. Okay, so it's funny to see how even after 5 or 6 years of being in this, not necessarily related with Vue, but with the web development itself, these things are still that are coming out are still new and are still impactful. Okay, and the email problems, it's clearly one of those
100%.
things to be solved. Okay, but out of all of these things, which most of them, I think they were really great announcements. What is the one that you think it's most impactful?
Yeah, so for sure the dropping the IE11, because it was something that no one was really expecting. Like when Vue 3 came along, IE11 was still on the plans, and dropping it is massive. I think that most IE11 projects will be on Vue 2, and people will suffer not going to Vue 3. So that's massive. Maybe Vue 2.7 will make it a bit better, because people want to go TypeScript. People want to go, the new Vite for local developments. And, it's great that Vue 2.7 is going to have Vite support. But, I feel like there's a loss there, right? And in a way, it's good that, frameworks are pushing the industry. You go like, sorry, we're not supporting that browser. So, you need to go and update all your computers, but maybe you can't update your computers and you still want to use that SaaS product, and you're using that SaaS product on an IE11 browser. So that is something that it will give a bit of a headache to a few people around the world for sure. And the second most, as I said, was the Cypress. Because if you're doing like end-to-end tests, you're probably on Nightwatch or Cypress currently. And if you're on Cypress, like it's just brilliant that you can leverage all that knowledge and just put it into component testing. So, and also like, I have to say, like, I love the work that Jessica and Lachlan are doing on the testing community for Vue. So like Lachlan is probably one of the brightest developers I've met. Feel free to look for him, like Lachlan Miller. He's this guy, man. He has these how do you say, screencasts or whatever they're called, where he shows like he's working with Vim, and he's showing like proper Vue stuff, like how to build reactivity system from scratch. It's just awesome. So this is not like I don't get a referral fee or anything. Most of the videos are free anyway. So just feel free to watch this guy work, because like he's really, really good. And I love that he's part of the core team, and I love the work that he's doing with Vue test-utils. Vue test-utils still is the most used framework for testing on Vue, and Cypress component testing leverages Vue test-utils underneath. So that's awesome. But yeah, IE11 and Cypress, to your question, Carlos. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody else have a question?
Let me check YouTube. Oh, all good. All right.
No?
I'll hand over to you, man.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So let's move on to my talk. So let me share here my screen. So can you just confirm that you're watching it? Does it work?
All good for me.
All good. Okay, so my talk today will be about test-driven development, as we said in the beginning. For those who don't know me, I am Fábio Martins. I'm an engineering manager at Infraspeak. And you can follow me on Twitter or LinkedIn if you get in contact, or reach me for any questions. Feel free to contact. I'm always available to share some knowledge and insights with you guys. My coding skills as an engineering manager are a bit rusty, okay, just to be clear, because I manage people most of the time. And my contact with the code, it's not the same as it was a few years ago. But I'm still very enthusiastic about the Vue.js and about the community, and I do some side projects around it. So, but all my hand knowledge, let's say, it's going or fading away slowly, okay. But still, just to let you know. But if my coding skills are not great, some people say that I do some great definish. So if there is a chance that we get back to one local meetup, maybe I can provide some definitions to all of you guys. I think that would be great. So a disclaimer about this talk. First, this talk assumes that you have a basic understanding of testing. Okay, so basic understanding of unit testing, end-to-end testing. And it's not the purpose of this talk to teach you how to build tests, okay? It's the purpose of the talk is to introduce you to test-driven development and how you can introduce it to your daily work, okay? That's the main goal of this. If you're looking to know more about testing and how to create tests and deeper knowledge on tests, I think there is a great chance here for a workshop, because I think that's that's the kind of knowledge that you don't learn in a half an hour session. Okay, you surely have to get a little bit of hands-on. So I think maybe that there will be a chance that we organize a workshop around testing in Vue.js, because I think it's a very important part for the community to know. And talking about tests actually, why do we build tests, and why should we have tests? first reason of all, that because they help you build a better product. Okay, that's the main reason. It's not because it's fun, because a lot of times it's not. Okay, it's not because it's cool. It's because it helps you build a better product. And if you want to be successful and help your company to become successful, you have to build great products that go to according to your customer needs, and also that are easy to maintain, easy to evolve, easy to share with other teammates. And from my experience, testing it's fun, but it can be hard. Okay, testing can be really hard. I assure you that there is tests that you write way more codes doing the test than doing the code itself. Okay, and maybe it's like you can lose 3 hours writing a test for 2 lines of code. Okay, there is scenarios where that might happen, but from my experience as well, and from my colleagues' experience, it's always worth it. Okay, most of the times it's worth it to build those tests. And why? I think this graph shows you effectively what's happening here. The initial investment on writing tests is high, okay, especially for those who are not used to write tests, okay, and even more for those who are not used to test-driven development. The initial cost is high, so you have to learn how to test, you have to learn the tool, you have to learn the methodology, you have to learn the edge cases. So it's hard. It's not easy at first. And the initial investment, it's something that you should be able to pay off. So if you're building a small project where you know there is no chance that it will evolve to something else, maybe having tests is not considerably important. I would advise, but still, it's not that important. But if you are in the serious business and you want to make serious stuff, you gotta do tests to your code base, okay? And it may slow down at the beginning for you, but at the long run, it will pay off by far all the investment you did at the beginning, okay? Especially when you are in a high growth startup, automated tests built at the beginning will pay off very, very high in the middle of the process, especially in the middle of the growth process, and I'll explain you why. So, but before moving on to test-driven development, be aware that there is a lot of types of tests. For those who don't know, in front-end testing, there is 3-4 types of tests: unit tests, snapshot tests, and here you may have also integration tests, and also end-to-end tests. We usually divide the weight of these tests and the amount of these tests by this described by this pyramid. Okay, most of the times we want to focus on unit tests because they are smaller, they are faster, they are focused, and they help you develop a better code. And in top of the pyramid, you want to do end-to-end tests to check overall interaction from the user and be sure that everything is working as expected. Although end-to-end tests are slower, very, very slow, and that's one of the reasons why you shouldn't do too many, okay, because they can delay your development due to their speed. But anyway, and of course you have still here snapshot tests, which are quite common on Vue as well. For the purpose of this talk, we are going only to use end-to-end testing and unit testing to showcase to you how we do TDD. And so what's test-driven development? I'm pretty sure most of you have heard about this and maybe know what it means, but what is it exactly? So basically, TDD, it's an approach to automated software testing that involves writing a failing test, that this is important, a failing test before writing a production code to make it pass, okay? So first of all, you start by writing a failing test, then you write the code that you have to do to make it pass. It helps you for sure to build a better product with a robust code, you catch bugs earlier and preventively. You will build a more modular code, a more flexible code, and a more secure code for sure. Okay. And the main principle here is the one that I said before. You should write your tests before writing your code. If you write code and then you do tests, that's not TDD. Okay, that's doing tests on your code, but that's not test-driven development. To do test-driven development properly, you should write tests before writing your code. Okay, so this forces you to think on your code first before writing it. Okay, which leads to a better, more robust, and robust code that behaves in the way you want. Okay. And one of the things that I usually say a lot too, because it's a misconception, it's that TDD is more than a quality tool. Okay, if you think that we use TDD only for quality to be sure that we have a quality product, it's not about that. It's also about software design. Okay, having a good test suite means usually that you have a good architecture. Okay, building good tests forces you to build good architecture. When you have very complicated tests, usually it's a code smell. Okay, so there is something wrong you have to do. You have to simplify. Okay, and that simplification means a more modular, a more easier to maintain code. And for that reason, and for my experience as well, having test-driven development leads usually to simpler applications, easier to maintain, and better architectures. And how it works exactly. So as I said before, you should start with a failing test. Okay, writing the tests and the specifications of how the code should behave. Then you should run and make sure the tests fail. Okay, so we want to be sure. It's like there is a name for this in science actually, but it's like a neutral test. Okay, you want to make sure it fails because if you write code that you think it's right and it passes or it fails, it may not be because of the code. It may be because of the test. Okay. So you always have to write a test that fails first to be sure that the test can fail. Okay, otherwise you may have false positives. Then after this, you will write all the code you need. Okay, the simplest code you can to make the test pass. Okay, to make the test run and to give the output that you want. Okay. You shouldn't care. I mean, this is obviously now like a taste. Okay, people like to do at this phase like to do a better code. But for my opinion, you should do the fastest code, the simplest code you can to make the test fast, and ensuring that you're having the right output. Okay, that the code is doing what you want. Okay, and by the end of it, when you are sure that you have failing tests, you're passing those tests, then it's time to refactor the code. Okay, to look at its performance, to look at its data structure, and to see where you can improve. Sometimes you can improve, sometimes you cannot. Okay, it's good as it is. Okay, but this refactor is key because since you have all tests, it's way easier to refactor. You can change the behavior of your components and making sure that they still giving the output you want. You can change the structure, you can change the architecture, but the test will always give you feedback if your refactor is affecting your code or not in the ways that you're not seeing. Okay, and this is important during the development process. Okay, and making a refactor part of the development process and not something that it's usually criticized and see as a bad thing, like you shouldn't refactor because you're losing time. No, just accept refactoring as something that it's part of the development work in your daily basis. Okay, but it even better and it pays off in the long run because later on when you get to refactor your own code like 1 month ago, 2 years after you wrote it, or when people are joining your team and you want to be sure they are not breaking the stuff that you built before. This is the times where the tests that you build at first will come very, very handy. So, and why so should you use test-driven development? Easier, you will have less bugs for sure, you will have easier refactors, and you will have a better design, a better architecture in your code. I think these 3 reasons are enough for you to convince you to do TDD. And of course, more specifically, TDD enables you to be confident about your code. You'll have unit tests, you'll have end-to-end tests that will validate the behavior that you're building, that will validate all the code you're writing and the things you're changing. So you'll write with confidence, and better than that, when new people come in, they will have more confidence writing in their code, in the code that wasn't written by them. Okay, because they know if they write something that may break, the code and the test will tell it's breaking. Okay, and that's a huge advantage when you're scaling your team and when you're onboarding new team members into your code base. Then, as I said before, it leads to a simpler and cleaner code, okay? Because when you're doing TDD, you're writing the minimal code needed to pass your test, okay? So which makes you focus on the code needed to make it run, instead of trying to think on all edge cases and all scenarios, and it should be this and that, which usually leads to a harder code base, difficult to maintain. And with TDD, it forces you to have a focus, okay? And the focus is to make the things work in the way they should work, in the simplest way possible, okay? It also drives to modular architecture, okay? Again, as I said, if you don't have a modular architecture and you're doing TDD, you will have a very hard time. Your tests will be very hard to write, very hard to maintain. And if you're going through that path, beware. It's not an easy path, and it's a painful path. Okay, so usually complex tests means you must change your code, you must simplify it. Okay, so try to keep it simple, because usually that means that your architecture is also simple and it's also maintainable. Again, you'll have better refactors, way easier to change and improve your design at the present and at the future of your product. You will have way more confidence shipping quickly to production. Okay, in 2 areas, you have more confidence shipping that code to production, because you'll know it's covered by your tests. You'll have more confidence changing your production code. You'll have more confidence fixing bugs or hard bugs in production, because the test will cover your back. And of course, it will reduce the amount of manual tests you have to do. It doesn't mean it will disappear, manual tests. That's not real, okay? But it will reduce the amount of manual tests that you need, and that's a safety net for you, for sure. For you, for your product team, for your quality team, it's clearly a benefit. And again, one of the undervalued benefits of having TDD, it's helping you scaling your team. Okay, if your engineering culture has stress-driven development, they will have to introduce you new team members, because your code base will be tested. It will be easier to introduce those key members, those new members. I mean, it will be easier to let them write production code in their first week of work, which leads to happy teams, happy people, happy code. Okay, so I think that's one of the great benefits of doing test-driven development. Of course, you can achieve this without doing TDD, just doing tests. Okay, it's not exclusive to TDD, but for sure, if you have that mindset first of writing the tests, it will force everyone to be on the same page. And a few advices I have to all of you regarding TDD and the experience I had. First of all, forget 100% coverage. Okay, I mean, if you can get it, yeah, it's fine, it's good, it's great, but I usually say it's the same thing and as trying to read all the letters on the newspaper. Okay, you don't have to read all the letters on the newspaper to know which kind all the news that are in that newspaper. Okay, so sometimes having 100% code coverage, it's a high effort, very high effort, and most of the times it doesn't pay off. Okay, so you should be a little bit selective in order to know which are the critical areas that you should test. Okay, and usually a code base with 70–80% of code coverage, it's already a pretty good coverage for a code base. Don't be obsessed with 100% code coverage, because in my experience it will lead you to nothing. Okay, of course, if you start from scratch in a project, having 100% code coverage is ideal, but don't live obsessed by that. Automated tests should live side by side with manual tests. Having automated tests doesn't mean that that you don't need to test manually your application. That's a fallacy. Okay, because you can have 100% coverage and your product not giving what your user needs. Okay, and the things are not working in the way it should. You can have 100% coverage doing unit testing, and when you integrate everything, things fail. Okay, so be sure that you validate your product and use it as your user would use it. It takes time to learn the TDD. Okay, you should be very patient. Okay, in my experience, it's around 3 months of solid practice, constant practice, in order to get used to TDD. Okay, and it's probably the hardest part. It's the beginning. Okay, because it's sometimes it's hard, and you must learn a lot of things. So you should be patient, you should be persistent in order to make this practice successful in your daily basis. Write more unit tests than end-to-end tests. It will help you ease your development flow. It will give you faster feedback. It will be easier to develop without having to wait for the end-to-end tests. And more of the core functionality actually it's on the unit tests. So you should focus more on those kind of tests than into end-to-end tests. One of the things that we realize, especially when you are in a big project and in a big team, is that the more tests you have, the slower will be your test suite. So it's very different having 100 tests and 5,000 tests in your test suite. And having 5,000 tests, for instance, may slow down your team. Okay, because if it takes 20 minutes to run tests before making a merge request or pull requests, it slows down the process. Okay, so be aware that this might happen if you go too far with your tests, but just be aware of it. Okay, don't focus too much on premature optimization. There is several techniques to reduce this problem. Okay, but I think you should only focus on that when you reach it. Okay, don't try to over optimize at the beginning of the process. Some tests are really hard to do at first, at second, at third time, but then it's business as usual. Okay, you just have to pass it through the time, try it several times until you know how to write it, and then things are way easier and it's fluid for you to write or to make TDD as your development workflow. Tests also can be a great source of documentation, especially for complex projects. Okay, so for instance, Infraspeak has a very complex project with very hard business logic, and when I got in the product, looking at the tests was a great way to learn and understand what the product was doing. So it was a great source of documentation for me. Focus on learning the concepts and the tools first. Okay, there is a few tools: Jest, Cypress, Vue-tils. There is Sinon for mocking. There is several things, and it's important that you have some awareness of what those things do and what kind of tools they provide you to build tests. because it will help you to be more effective. Okay, otherwise there will be scenarios where you will lose yourself and you won't know exactly where to go. So be aware that you read well the documentation of these tools, of all the tools that you are using while doing TDD, because they will help you a lot on making it better. And again, it takes persistence to learn TDD, a lot of persistence. Many people give up at the first weeks, okay? But keep pushing, okay? And I'm pretty sure you won't regret it, okay? So a few more things to learn about TDD, okay? So actually, I'm going to demo how you can write some code with test-driven development. And actually, it's not, I didn't invent the wheel. It's actually, if you follow up learn TDD /Vue, you will have there the same code that I'm going to showcase to you. And it's a great start for a start to have the basic understanding of how to practice TDD. But of course, there is a few books and talks available in the internet where you can find more details about how to build applications using Vue and test-driven development. Okay. Yeah, and it's demo time. As I said, I'm a bit rusty, so let's see if it goes well. Let me change here to my screen. Okay, actually, this will be some kind of live testing. Okay, so I have a few branches where I have my codes to start with, and I will try to. Whoops, let me just push here. I will try to move or to evolve this application by changing my branches. So let's start by actually looking at what application we are going to build. So it's pretty simple. If we get here our project running. It's pretty simple. It's just an input box where we write hello Porto.Vue, and we check send, and it sends a message. For you. So we are going to build this component and this application, very simple application, just by doing TDD. Okay. So let's start with the first step, and for that I will. Sorry, not coming out. I will check out to my step one. My step one app. So we will start the app with a very simple boilerplate. Okay, so we will instantiate our application with a template with a simple div inside. Okay, this is the very basic beginning. Okay, and we will start by actually doing here end-to-end tests. Okay, so this session here will showcase to you how to make end-to-end TDD with end-to-end testing and unit testing. I will use both things. So first thing we will do here is to use end-to-end with Cypress. Okay. And the main goal here is just to make sure that all our components and all our elements live within the page. So what we are going to do here is to actually check our test section end to end, and here in our specs we have a file called creating a message spec. And what we have here, it's actually a simple test, a simple Cypress test, which creates a message. It says it should display a message, and what it does is it visits the home page. It looks for an element with the attribute data test with the name message text, and it will type in there a new message. Okay, then it will look for the element send button and push it with a click. And after that, we will empty the message. Okay, we will check if the message text is empty. So when we send the message, the input field should be empty. Okay, and by the end, we will check if the body of our application has the message that we sent, which is the new message. Okay, so this is our test, which is quite easy to build before running or doing any code for our application. Okay, be aware that this data test attribute has Rui Posse said in his presentation. It's a good practice, okay, to have these attributes to identify the elements of your application. And so if you come here and if we write npm run tests unit, not unit, sorry, I didn't mean unit, I mean end-to-end, which is the kind of test we are doing now. You can see that the test will fail. Okay. At this moment, I'm actually writing. I'm running Cypress in the headless mode, which means I don't have a live browser showing the application. I just want to see the error happening in my console. So, and if you come back here, you'll see that we'll have a test, and it's saying that it cannot find the element data test, message test, because we didn't create one. Okay, so this is the first failing test, as I said before. We've created our application and our test, and our test is failing. So our goal here now is to make it pass. Okay, so and how will we do this? First, I will split this to the right to make it easier, and to make it pass, we will have just to check out here for our step 2 and do what we need to make this first step here pass, which is we need to create a component, okay, which is called new message form, okay, and this new message form will have an input field with the data test attribute called the message text. And if you come here to our components, we can see here that, yeah, we have here this new component which we are importing here, and this component has an attribute as an input with an attribute called data text with the value message text. So if you run our tests again, this first test here, this one, should pass. Actually, this is not a test, this is an assertion. The test is everything around here. So this first assertion here should pass. And there you go. We don't have any more the error, okay, of not finding the message text. Now it's failing because it doesn't find the send button element. And if you look at here, we don't have any send button. And for this reason, the test is failing. So what we should do here, again, we have to create our second test, our button with the data test and with the send button again. So this is what we need to do to make this second assertion pass, okay? And if you come here and we run again, you will see that we won't have any more errors regarding this assertion. Yeah, there you go. No more errors. Now we fall into the third assertion. Okay, so everything is going good. So we've created the basics for our component. just by first of all doing our end-to-end test. Okay, and this is something with some practice. It's pretty easy to do and pretty easy to build. So, but now, what's the error is saying? The error is actually saying that we don't have the new message in the body, and that's because the only way to do this is to add behavior to the component. Okay, so and to add behavior to the component, it means that we'll have to create some introduce some data to our component, introduce some methods, introduce some events. Okay, in order to make this pass. And this is a great opportunity to jump into unit testing. Okay, so when you want to test the classes or the functions of a component, it's better to jump into unit testing instead of keep doing end-to-end testing. And for this reason, I'm going to jump here for my step number 4. And I don't care anymore about end-to-end testing. I only care now about unit testing. And here I have a unit test. And before doing any change to my code, what do we have here? So we have a unit test. We are actually using Vue test utils as a tool to run our tests. And we're importing our components. So first of all, we mount our components and add it to a wrapper, okay? And it will run before this component will be mounted before every test that it's run inside here. And the first test we have is just making sure that when you click the send of a button, everything is working. It's working as expected, okay? So what we will do before running each of these tests, we will find in this component, we will find the message test, set a value to it with new message, and then we will find the element that has the send button, data attribute, data test attribute, and trigger a click. Okay, so before every test, we should be sure that this behavior is going to happen. Okay. When we run these 2 steps, we have to assert some conditions. And one of the first conditions we want to assert here is that, okay, when I click on the send button, I want the input to become empty. Okay, I want to erase the information that it's there. And that's what we are doing here. We are finding, again, that element and checking if the value is empty or it's equal to empty string. So, and if you come here and if you run the not end-to-end, but in this case the unit test, and you will see that it's much faster to run unit tests than to end-to-end tests. It was way faster. You see again here that we have a failing test. Okay, what it says here is that it was expecting to be empty, the element to be empty, and actually it has a new message in there, which means that when we are clicking on the send button, it's not erasing the field. So how can we do this? So again, if I split to the right, I have here my new message form, which is the component that we are working in, and I have to add some behavior to our component, and what we'll do, I will add some data, and by the way, I'm not using Vue 3, I'm using Vue 2 for this purpose, for this exercise, and we have some data here, and we are adding a property here called the input text, which will be binded to the input here using the model. Okay. Then we have a method, okay, to send the message. And what we are doing here is that every time that we click on a button, we will send, we will call the send method, and the send method will set this data property with an empty string, okay? And that's the respective behavior. When we click on the button, we want to empty the message, and hopefully this will make our test passed, because this is what the test is expecting as well. And there you go, the test has passed. Okay, so we were able here to create a unit test first before writing the behavior of the component. So now moving on to the next step. What more tests can we do here? We actually want to be sure that we just don't want to check if when we click the send button, if the input is empty. We want to also check if the message that we inserted in the input was sent to the main body of the component. And this is what second test is doing. Okay, we are basically again checking that when we click the send button, that an event is emitted. Okay, and that event will have the message set to new message. Okay, and as you know, we are not emitting any information in our component right now. Okay, but and for this reason the test will fail for sure. There you go. It says that it didn't. It failed because when we are clicking on the send button, it's not emitting the sent event as I'm saying here. Okay. By the way, if you don't know how this works here, so basically in Vue test utils, you have this method which is emitted, which collects all the events emitted by the component and adds them into an array. So if I have 3-4 times the send event happening in this component, I will have three events here in this one. So what we want here actually is just to check if the first event will have the content new message. So to make this test pass, what we will do here is just to go to step 6. Pretty simple. We want to emit the message, and when we click the send button, it will call the send method, and it will emit the send event with the information that we put it in the input text. Okay, so if you go here and run our test again, yeah, it will pass as expected. Okay, so as you can see, we were able actually to create the behavior of our front-end application without even opening the browser. Okay, and with some experience and some practice, you can actually do this without opening the browser. Okay, without even checking. Of course, I'm not talking about centering the divs and coloring and styling everything. That's hard. But if you think in a logic manner, and if your main goal at first is to focus on the behavior of your application, you can perfectly build front-end applications at a functional level without even opening the browser. And this is actually an advantage to make sure that you're building a reliable application. There is more things in this exercise that you can check on the reference that I sent to you. I'm not going much further because otherwise it would take too much time to you guys. I think this was enough for you to have an initial understanding of how you can introduce TDD in your daily workflow. One of the things that I didn't showcase here is the refactor part. Okay, so we could do this, and by the end, if this was a more complicated test, more complicated code, for sure by the end of this you would like to refactor. And but since you have all the tests now, it would be very easy for you to refactor your code without and making sure your tests are going on. And that process of refactor makes it way easier when you have your tests written up front. Okay, just to finish, actually, I was showing here the Cypress test without in the headless mode, but for those of you who never used Cypress, okay, maybe it would be interesting to show you here how Cypress works in the usual way, okay, without headless mode. So I'm going to run the test without headless mode. and you will see that it will open a browser and validate all our tests in here. So there is one test. I will run all specs. And you can see it did all these steps. It visited the page. It found the message text. It typed a new message in the input. It found the send button. It clicked in the send button. It checked if the input is empty or not. And by the end, it validated if the new message was in the body or not of the component. Okay, this is actually pretty powerful and useful tool to use, Cypress. Okay, but it can be also really slow. Okay, so be careful when to not abuse the usage of Cypress. Okay, and that's pretty much it for today. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you have any questions, please feel free.
Fábio, I have a question if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
By the way, I need to say sorry, man, because I kept the talk calling you Carlos, and Carlos is sorry, man.
It's okay.
Anyway,
It's okay.
I've faced a problem before on TDD, which was, you already have the project. The project has 100,000 lines of code, like fairly medium project. And now you want to introduce TDD to the team, right? The team has no experience with it, and you covered some good points there for the team. Takes practice, etc. But my question is more around of how would you think to approach to actually introduce unit tests, not to the team itself, but to the project, to the code itself, right? Let's say, the team is willing to go TDD, they're willing to put the time to learn and to try it out, but you're not necessarily doing new features all the time. So you're pretty much working with the files that are already there.
Yeah.
How do you see introducing TDD on a project like that?
I actually can give you the practical example of Infraspeak. Okay, so at Infraspeak, our Vue application was built without tests. Okay, and it's a massive application. Okay, with more than 2 years of development on top of it, and it's really big. And this year, actually, at the beginning, we had a few tests here and there in car areas that were very, very critical. But this year, from January, we decided to invest a lot in it. So we had to come up with a strategy to develop some testing and to motivate the team to do it. Okay. One of the things that we did was start with simple stuff. Okay, because testing hard stuff, it's hard. Even for senior people, it's hard, and it makes you demotivate very fast. Okay, so it's not the best way to incentivize your team to go with that practice. Okay, so what we did was start with small. So we have a folder with common components, small components that are ours. So we began to, let's try to raise the coverage of this folder of these components. They are very simple components that are reused across all the application. So we began to just build unit tests for those components, okay, and try to raise the coverage of those areas. And since those were simple and actually were used across all the application, we were adding value, and at the same time, we were helping the team getting introduced to this, okay. By the way, I'm not saying that everyone at Infraspeak uses TDD, okay. Surely the backend team uses a lot. The front-end team, not that much, okay. But we do test, okay, on top of everything. And at this moment, actually, we are around the 52% of coverage, which is great for the last 6 months we did this. And the other thing is provide resources. Okay, so share with your team Vue mastery courses, make internal conferences about how to build tests, and create the space and the opportunity for those people to write those tests. Okay, if you are asking your team to learn to write tests and build tests, and you have a deadline tomorrow every single week, they won't write tests and they will quit. So you have to find the space for them to do that and to invest in that. Okay, and the company, you have to convince the company that that's an investment that it's worth it. Okay, that will pay in the long run. Okay, if you're waiting for immediate success, or let's say immediate results, you won't have. Okay, it's a long process, especially in a legacy application, but I can assure you that in the long run it pays off by a mile. Okay. And by the way, we also have a concept in our team, which is every last day of sprint, we have what we call an engineering day, which is we don't develop for the product. Okay, we are focused on pet projects, doing stuff out of the products and investing of new technologies, new libraries for Vue, just experimenting. Okay, and most of the people that are unfamiliar with testing, okay, they actually use that day, that full day, to get together and pair program, or in this case, do some more programming. So 3-4 people building tests together and learning together. So when they get back to their code in the product, it gets easier for them to write tests on the go. And this practice actually probably it has been the most successful one. Okay, giving the space for them to learn. But it takes time again.
Sure. Yeah. No, thanks. Just one more insight about this, which is about specifically the TDD approach, right? Because if you already have the code, right, your team already knows. Let's imagine the team already knows how to build tests, right? Everyone is very knowledgeable. You have the perfect dev team, all seniors, like everyone. It's okay. But if you're not writing a new feature, applying TDD is probably not the best, right? Because you cannot be on that situation
you can't because you already have the code.
That's exactly my point. So I think that's where TDD falls short. It's a great methodology, but I think it falls short there. And I don't know if you have any insight about it, but maybe what I was expecting from you is like, no, we can still apply TDD somehow, and that's what I was looking for. But you know, if you share
in this case, you can't, because one of the core concept is you start with the test first.
Exactly.
Okay? So if you have the code, you can start with the test.
Yeah.
But what I usually say is that when you have very large legacy code base, it's a good idea in the legacy part probably to go first with end-to-end testing. Okay, tests that cover a larger area of the code, so it can give you some comfort. Okay, and then you go down. Okay, that would be probably a good strategy for starters.
I agree.
But if you go fresh, I mean, go unit testing.
Thanks, man. Cheers.
Okay. Any more questions? Don't be shy. Or let me ask, any of you already did or practice TDD?
I have done TDD in the past, and it's.
Why did you quit?
It was policy of the company, and then the next one was not, and then I got big code base, and you just don't do it. But but yeah, I agree, it's a massive overhead, but I also agree it pays off massively as the code base grows up. So I always encourage everyone to try it out. So I agree 100% with everything you said on the talk.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So if there is no questions and nothing more to add, so let me thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. Okay. Again, we are looking for new speakers. So if you're interested, please get in contact with us. We will probably try to make this event again locally, as I said, and I think it would be very, very interesting to have a deep session on testing for Vue, because especially in the Portuguese industry, I feel there is a lot of companies that neglect a lot testing and undervalue the practices of testing. And I think it's time to change that mindset and to let you see the value of it, especially in products that you know that it will grow. Okay. So having like a workshop or some more intensive session of how to create tests and maybe applying TDD or not, your choice, would be very interesting for the community. Yep. Okay, guys. So thank you very much. See you next time.
Thank you, Fábio. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you for
you.
having me. Cheers.
Yeah.